This might be one of the greatest individual acts in the history of football. The year is 2016. We've played 83 minutes between Chelsea and Tottenham, in what some have considered to be perhaps the most intense Premier League game in history. Tottenham have to win to have a chance of catching up with Leicester City, who are on the verge of achieving perhaps the greatest sporting miracle of all time. The score is 2-1 to Spurs, and with 7 minutes left, the ball heads towards our protagonist. Eden Hazard receives the ball on the left side of his own half, and the moment he passes it back to Mikel, he turns around and accelerates away from Kyle Walker, until it turns out that his run was just a maneuver to create more space from Walker, where he can once again receive the ball from Mikel. This is where Eden Hazard's technical brilliance comes into play. When Hazard receives the ball, he tilts his body backwards and turns it towards his own goal, signaling for a backward pass. Then, he adjusts his body again, and with his extraordinary footwork, finds the gap to move forward, in between the lines. Eden Hazard's acceleration and balance were two phenomenons that at times almost felt inhuman. To be able to accelerate away from a 26-year-old Kyle Walker's literal grip, as he tries to pull him back with both hands and his body weight, is something that is truly remarkable. Call it an exaggeration or glazing, but you will never truly understand football unless you can grasp the magnitude of being able to do so. Another aspect that is difficult to appreciate is this part: the technique in maintaining control of the ball with both feet at the speed that Hazard has reached, at the same time as Eric Dyer is pressuring him from the side. Because you must understand that this was a match where Eric Dyer had more or less tried to end Eden Hazard's career. So having the psychological courage to keep facing such a player in close challenges is a factor that many underestimate. But Hazard's vision for the game was always his ace in the hole. And with his elegant technique, he stops, turns, and finds the one optimal gap that no one else can see, between Kyle Walker's legs. The ball is then passed on to Diego Costa, and at that moment, Eden Hazard starts taking the run that would leave the entire Tottenham Hotspur defense behind. Diego Costa's action should not be overlooked either, and with his first touch, the Brazilian-born Spaniard sets course towards the penalty area. And on the second touch, he releases the ball to the main character, the protagonist, the man who arrived to London at the age of 21, and who'd go down in history as the greatest genius that Stamford Bridge ever witnessed. The finish was the icing on the cake, and to be able to do it with Moussa Dembele on your back is even more impressive. The goal became historic, because it was the goal that gave Leicester City the Premier League title, perhaps the greatest upset in all sporting history. And it's precisely this Eden Hazard that I choose to remember. The Eden Hazard I first discovered in Lille when I was 12 years old and constantly used while playing FIFA 11. The Eden Hazard who at times may have been the closest thing we ever came to seeing a new Lionel Messi, after Messi himself. I could go through his entire life, where it began, how beautiful the peak was, and how ugly the fall was, that made one of the greatest footballers to ever grace the game retire at the age of 32. But all I can say for now is that those who didn't get to experience Eden Hazard in his prime will never understand what a great player he truly was. Eden Hazard was one of the few footballers who made you feel something every single time that the ball came to his feet. You can't really describe that with words. You had to be there to experience it. To have sat behind the TV screen when I saw the goal against Arsenal, how he turned Francis Coquelin's life upside down, and then went through the entire pitch to finish against the goalkeeper with the most clean sheets in Premier League history. The absolutely astonishing solo goal against West Ham that hasn't been talked about enough, or both goals against Liverpool, which included so many brilliant elements like nutmegs, mobility, vision, acceleration, touch, and of course, the superb finishing. All the things that define true greatness in a footballer. And as a football lover, I can only consider myself privileged to have witnessed these moments as they happened. And these are the moments that I will choose to remember him by. Because that is Eden Hazard's legacy. And that's where I'll leave it. Because that is exactly what his career deserves.